What confuses people is that people think that the second coming is at the end of the 7-year tribulation. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Today I want to talk about the full sequence of events of how things will unfold in the last days, because I am not happy with the accepted version of 7-year tribulation, pre-trib rapture. It just doesn't agree, for me, it doesn't agree with the verses of the Bible, that sequence. So I have come up with a different sequence, a new, very new, revolutionary sequence, which is so different that it actually scares me, because sometimes I think that it's just too much. But so far, everything checks out when you test it against the different verses of the Bible. So first of all, when I started reading Daniel 7 verses 21, when it talks about the beast coming out, I didn't get the sense that there is a tribulation starting right away. So that's why the 7-year tribulation doesn't work for me. I don't see how, when the beast comes out, Revelation 13 says that the whole world will love the beast. They will worship the beast. They will follow the beast. And only the Christians will be persecuted, because it says in Revelation 7 and Revelation 13 and Daniel 7 that the beast will wage war on the saints and overpower them, but not on the world. The world will be enjoying it. That's why it says in the Bible later that they will have peace and security, and then sudden destruction come upon them. So the beast will have authority for 42 months, 3.5 years. And during that time, it's going to be the time of persecution of Christians. That agrees with Matthew 24, where it says they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death. And that's not the great tribulation. That's just very difficult times. You will be hated by all nations, and then many will fall away. People will lose faith, betray one another. That's the persecution of the saints. And we have a cross-reference for that in the book of Revelation. There are people who had been slain for the word of God, and they are crying to God, "Avenge our blood, Lord." And that goes on for 3.5 years. That's the rule of the beast. The beast was actually given authority to do that. And it all starts with a covenant imposed by the beast. The Hebrew word for imposing the covenant is gibir. It suggests strength, cunningness, and force. The covenant will be imposed on Israel. And that is the sign to look for. Many pastors, they say, the next event on my prophetic calendar is the rapture. Well, I think the next event on the prophetic calendar is not the rapture, but it's the covenant signed, imposed on Israel by the beast. And from that moment, we can count 3.5 years. At some point, the beast will start blaspheming God. He will introduce the mark of the beast, and then move on to the abomination of desolation. And when he introduces the mark of the beast, that is the time of when the persecution will increase. And of course, we read about the mark of the beast in chapter 13 of Revelation. But in chapter 14, it's pretty clear how God is exhorting the population and the people to not to worship the beast. God says, if anyone worships the beast, they will drink the wine of God's wrath, and then they will go to hell. But still, people choose to worship the beast. Many people will receive the mark. They will have no problem. Even Christians will fall away from faith, and they will accept the mark. And then a couple of lines below, 14:12, it says, here's a call for the endurance of the saints. We have to endure because we keep the commandments of God and our faith in Jesus. And then 14:4, 2 verses below, is the rapture. Jesus sitting on a cloud with a golden crown on his head, and that's not Fauci, okay? That's not Corona. And sharp sickle in his hand, that is Jesus. And another angel came out of the temple and said, put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come. The harvest of the earth is ripe, fully ripe. This is the harvest of the believers. This is the rapture. And then there's the rapture of the worst of the sinners below that. And that rapture is also in Revelation 7:13, when John is asking, who are these in white robes? And the angel says, they came out of the great tribulation. They came out of the great tribulation. So that's Revelation 7:13. And by the way, do not be put off by all this jumping back and forth in Revelation or any other book of any other prophecy, because prophecies, this is very important, are never chronological. Prophecies are never chronological. Sections are. We might even have a couple of chapters chronologically put in a book, in a prophetic part of the Bible, but the whole books, like the book of Jeremiah, book of Revelation, book of Isaiah, when you read them from the beginning to end, there's no chronology there. They are never chronological. So that's why we have to jump back and forth, and that's why it's so difficult. That's why it's so confusing to connect all these dots and create a sequence of events. And I believe this rapture is also in Matthew 24:29, where it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days, you will see the Son of Man, and he will gather his elect from all over the world. So that happens not at the very beginning of the difficult times of the beast revealed, but it happens after the tribulation of those days. And this is the great tribulation. And I have to admit, I have a little bit of a trouble placing this great tribulation on the timeline, because we're not exactly told how long it's going to be. It only says that God will have to shorten those days because it's going to be so difficult and nobody would survive. But it doesn't say how long it's going to be, how much it's going to be shortened, from what to what, and when exactly it sits on the timeline. So the sequence of events is, I believe, pretty accurate, but the timing is difficult. But anyways, there's going to be a great tribulation, and the harvest of believers will happen. The harvest of believers is the same rapture as described in Matthew 24:29. Now, this comes, and this is a very important thing, this comes at the time when Jesus comes. The rapture and the coming of Jesus is the same event. But what confuses people, now wait a little bit, what confuses people is that people think that the second coming is at the end of the 7-year tribulation, or either way, it's at the end of the 7-year time period just before the millennium. But actually, the second coming of Jesus is earlier. It happens earlier. It happens kind of halfway through the 7-year time period. And yes, there is a 7-year time period because the covenant is going to be signed for 7 years, I believe. But it's not all a tribulation, right? But the second coming happens in the middle of that. And this is pretty clear when you compare Matthew 24:29 to Revelation 6. Now listen to Revelation 6. There's going to be signs in heaven, right? Solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, stars falling, and then the wrath of God comes. And people will be screaming, the wrath of the Lamb is upon us, and they will be running for the caves. That's Revelation 6, and also the sixth seal, accidentally. The same signs from heaven are described in Matthew 24:29. Solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, stars falling, and then everybody will see Jesus. There will be a sign in heaven. Jesus will be coming with power and glory. Same signs. Revelation, at the end of that is the wrath. In Matthew 24:29, same signs. At the end of that is Jesus coming. And he will send his angels to gather his elect. And that is also the time of rapture, because we're not appointed to wrath. So when Jesus comes, after the Great Tribulation, he will extract us first, then pour out his wrath, and then he's staying on earth to actually deal with all the evil on earth and prepare the earth for the millennium. How do we know that Jesus is here early and he's staying on earth? Because at that time, 144,000 Jewish gospel soldiers come out into the world. And they are described in Revelation 7 and 14. And from the Revelation 7, we know this is the sixth seal. Sixth seal. And from the Revelation 14, we read about them standing on Mount Zion, and Jesus is standing there with them. What is Jesus doing on earth when the bowls of wrath are not poured out yet? Kind of in the middle of Revelation, maybe not middle, but yeah, kind of in the middle of the book of Revelation. It's not over yet, and Jesus is already on earth in Jerusalem, standing on Mount Zion, because he already came back, because he just came back. And those 144,000, when they come out at the beginning of the second half of the 7-year time period. Is the second 3.5 years. It says in Revelation, they will be prophesying for 42 months, and the Gentiles will be trampling the city for 42 months. This is the time of great troubles. This is the wrath of God, and we will be out before then. So Jesus already came back, and then the bowls of wrath will be poured out. Then the rest of the Revelation plays out, and Jesus is already on earth. What he's doing, he's actually fulfilling the second half of his ministry, because he was cut off halfway through. That happened in the first century. And now he is fulfilling his ministry, the remaining 3.5 years on earth. But this time it's going to be wrath. This time it's going to be vengeance, not grace. I'm trying to be very brief. I could go on more about the cross references, but basically, to sum it up, the covenant is forced. That's the beginning. That is our sign. That's the next event on the prophetic calendar. The world gets peace and security. The mark comes out. They worship the beast. In that peace and security, as in the days of Noah, everything is dandy for them. Christians and Jews are suffering persecution. But then the beast crosses the line with God demanding worship, basically. That is too much, and Jesus comes back, because despite the warnings to the people are taking the mark, worshiping the beast. So sudden destruction comes on them as Jesus brings wrath, and the rapture happens just before that. We need to know this sequence of events, not to be deceived and not to fall away from faith. There's going to be a lot of that. And I hope this sequence of events makes sense to you. Please leave me a message, leave me a comment. But we need to wait with hope and trust that Jesus will protect us, as per Revelation 3:10. Jesus will do that for his faithful servants. Also Zephaniah 2:3. Look that up if you don't know the verses. Beautiful verses of hope for us in difficult times. Zephaniah 2:3. So this is the first sequence of the events. Rule of the beast, which will be for 3.5 years, then the mark, and then the rapture. In part 2, we'll talk about the second 3.5 years, the abomination of desolation, the wrath, and the end. Thank you for listening, and may the Lord richly bless you from Zion. Take care. Bye-bye.